Hey guys, Matthew here, and today it will be the second part of my warm-up video. So in the first part we covered all the little exercises and activations I do before training my pull-ups and dips, and the video turned out to be really long and really informative, and a lot of you liked it, and there even were people that wrote to my DMs saying that the video fixed a lot of their problems and the pains, and they felt better after copying what I do for my warm-ups. So I'm really glad to know that it was helpful, and it's a great motivation for me to do more such videos. So there is a part 2. The part 2 will be about my warm-up set structure. Of course, I do the activations before the exercise, and the activations are important, but the warm-up set structure is even more important in my experience for ensuring optimal performance in your lifts and really priming you for that top set or for those work sets or even for that 1 RM attempt you're going to do. So I have some important structure to my warm-up sets, some tips and tricks I can share, so this video will be about that. So an important detail in your warm-up sets is the technique and the intent you're doing them with. So it's important to not just go through the motions, but to really do the exercise as powerfully and explosively with the most nervous activation as you can. So for example, check my warm-up sets for pull-ups in my videos from my training. I do most of my pull-ups actually chest to bar or as high as I can. And I do my dips as fast as I can. And this is very important because you really want to activate your nervous system as much as possible with these warm-up sets. If you go slow, if you go controlled, this is not activation. This is just waste of strength. So you want to lift these, even 25 kilos on dips and pull-ups. You want to lift these 25 with as much intent as you're doing your top set with. So you pull your 25, but you pull it like it's 100 kilos. So with maximum effort, with 10% effort. And this way, the warm-up will work. Let's start with the first warm-up set I do. So after I finish my activations, the first thing I do for both pull-ups and dips, and we'll not be covering squats here, because for squats the structure is a bit different, and it's basically the same as all the other guys squatting heavy weights do, so you can watch powerlifters and it will be more representative of what a good squat warm-up is. But for pull-ups and dips I have my own structure, and I will maybe touch a little bit on muscle-ups, but yeah, so I always start my warm-up sets with body weight for 5 reps. But I don't do just bodyweight reps for both pull-ups and dips because it's a little bit too easy, and the weight distribution in the bodyweight reps is a little bit different. So when I do my working sets and warm-up sets, the center of mass is really dictated by where the weight is. So it depends a lot on the plate position, and it's completely different when there are no plates involved. So that's why I always do a variation, and my variation choice is very specific for my own purposes. So this might not be optimal for you, but it's optimal for me. So for pull-ups, my body weight for 5 reps variation is half pull-ups. And you probably saw them in a lot of my videos. So when I start warming up for my pulls, I don't go all the way. I don't do full range of motion pull-ups. I only start doing those when I add weight. My bodyweight warm-up set is always halves. Halves with an accentuated top position. I do this because the top position of the pull-up is the hardest for me, and the one which it basically requires the most attention and the most warming up. So when I do my halves, it's the purpose of doing them half range of motion in the first place is to focus on that important top position and top half of the movement. That's why I do halves. And for dips, I do paused tempo reps, and the purpose of them is to really feel the movement and imprint the smooth dipping patterns. So one of my main problems when it comes to dips and dip performance is shaking and misgrooving reps, and this usually comes from a bit of an imbalance between sides. So with the body weight for 5 reps tempo pause dips, I really try to feel the balance between sides and feel the smoothness of the movement. So later on I can replicate it in the warm-up sets and then in the top set or working sets. Alright, so we covered the bodyweight sets. Now let's get into the weight jumps for my warm-ups. So there are certain rules to them, and there are some exceptions to set rules, which I will discuss right now. So the first is that my weight jumps during warm-ups are in this range here. So the max jump I will do in my warm-up set is 25 kilos. So because the largest plate is 25 kilos aside from the 50s, but it's not really practical to jump 50 kilos. And I tried warming up on dips in steps like bodyweight, then 50, then 100, and it didn't really feel good. I didn't feel as activated as I would with 25 kilo jumps, so I stick with this. So the max jump is 25 kilos, but once I get all the way to 50 on pull-ups and all the way to 100 on dips, the weight jumps will need to decrease a bit in order for me to arrive to a certain weight, which I will be doing for my warm-up in this particular session. So this is the range. And the next important rule for my warm-up sets is that the weight jumps can stay the same or decrease. They cannot increase. So for example, let's say that I'm warming up to a set of pull-ups of 85 kilos for 6. So I did my body weight for 5, I did my 25 for 3, I did my 50 for 3, and what's the next logical step? So, for example, I will not go like this. I will not go 65 for 2, and then 85 for 6. I will not do that because the jump from 50 to 65 is 15 kilos, and from 65 to 85 is 20 kilos. So here the jump is 25, 25, 15, and 20. That is not optimal. So the right call here would be to go 70 for 2, and then I'm good because that's a 25 jump, 25, 20, and 15. So the warm-up sets can stay, like the jumps can stay the same or decrease, but they cannot increase, because this way you will not be activated properly for the top set. Alright, so the next rule is that for rep sets, so for example 85 kilos for 6 reps is a rep set. So I always warm up with the reps for my rep sets, and I can warm up with singles only for singles. So I will not go, for example, if my top set is 105, for example, for 3, I will not go 70 for 2 and 90 for 1. I will not do that because singles are a different work mode, so to say. So for me, it's really important to warm up with the reps for reps, because the part I accentuate my attention on is the transition between reps. And if I warm up like this, I will not be properly activated for a heavy rep set, because this is just a single. It doesn't have that transition of rep to rep. So in this case, even though I might waste a little bit of strength here for this, the activation is more important. So in this case, I will go 70 for 2 and 90 also for 2. And I've experimented with this, and this way just feels stronger and better activation for the CNS. So this is another rule. So if the top set or the working sets is for reps, I will warm up with at least 2 reps. So not 3, of course, because that would be a waste of strength, but for 2, not for 1. This is important. But if the work set was like 105 for 1, so like a light session, then I have all the right to go 90 for 1 as well. This way I will save strength, and the activation will be specific for the top set, because the top set is a single. So this here is appropriate, yeah. So if that's a single for my top set, I will warm up with a single. But if it's at least for 2, then this should also be for 2. because a single here will not be specific for a rep set. All right, so let's cover a bit more of an extreme example. So let's say that I'm warming up for a 125 pull-up single. So 125 for one. And one might think that I will go from here to 70, then to 90, then to something like 110, and then to 125 to make the warm-up smoother. But I will not do that. So this is probably something that only I do, but I like to keep my jumps here as big as possible. So 125 is basically comprised of 5 25s. So that's what I will do for my warm-up. So I will go 75 for 2, 100 for 1, and 125 for 1. And the jumps may sound a little bit extreme, but it works for me. And as long as the jumps are not more than 25, I am properly activated for my top set. So if this, for example, is not 125, if this is 127.5, then this doesn't work. Then I actually have to stretch it out and go 70 for 2, 90 for 1, 110 for 1, and 127.5. But as long as the jumps are in that 25 kilo range, I will stick to the 25 kilo jumps, because like decreasing my jumps here and adding an extra warm-up set will not do me any good. In fact, it will only tire me out and waste my focus. So I try to make my jumps for the heavy single as big as possible in order to not waste strength, and I don't get any additional benefit from adding extra warm-up sets to be more activated. My nervous system just doesn't work this way, but for you it might be different, so don't take this as an advice. This is just what I do. So another extreme example would be for dips, when I did my 201 kilo dip. So 201 for 1. So one might think that I would go a similar route to this one. So because 125 for 2, 150 for 1, and the logical thing here for most of you would be to go something like 170 for 1, then like 186 or 190 for 1, and then 201 for 1. But here I broke my rule and I did 175 for 1. So the jumps were 25, 25, 25, 25, 25, 25, 25, 26. Because if I would have gone 170, 190, I would have wasted my strength and wasted my focus a little bit, and I didn't want to take any risks, and I basically went like this. And as most of you remember, my 201 kilo dip, it flew up. So this strategy, it was risky, but it worked. And when I was warming up for 205 kilos, 205 for 1. Here it was different. Here I went with decreasing my jumps. So I went to 170 for 1, 190 for 1. And my original plan for that session was 210 kilos. But I wasn't really fully recovered for my 205 kilo dip, and I decided to judge whether to call for 205 or 210 based on how 190 moved. And 190 moved terribly. It was horrible. And then the decision was made to go for 205 to be safe. But like the week before, I did my preparation and the numbers were showing that I was basically ready for even 210. But I did 205 and it was good, and I'm happy with that decision. So the example here was for the 201 kilo dip. So sometimes if you really want to ensure max performance, if I really want to ensure max performance, then I will break these rules and stretch them a little bit, but not too much. So 26 kilo jump here was okay, but a 30 kilo jump from 175 to 205 would not be okay. So with the 205 I went with this kind of warm-up, and I actually felt that I wasted a little bit of strength on that, but at least I got to judge my performance appropriately with the 190 single. So yeah, and one detail left is that if I ever go for sets above 6 reps, so for example, like let's say I want to do like something like 130 for 8 or for 10, let's say 130 for 8. Это надо будет вырезать. So let's say that 130 for 8 plus. I do not increase reps here, so I still keep my 25, 50, 75, all at 3 reps in order to not waste any strength, because it doesn't offer any more specific activation to go for 25, for example, for 5 reps. That doesn't make sense for me because it's still reps, it's still the same. And my warm-up for this would be 100, like these sets stay the same, and for this I will go 115 for 2. So not for 1, of course, but not for more than 2, because this stays the same. So I increase like my warm-up sets for dips in triples all the way to 100, and after that I have creative freedom with the jumps. So for 130, for example, I will do 115 for 2 and then 130 for 8. Yeah, that's it. For muscle ups, well, I trained them pretty recently. The same structure applies, is that just the max jump in weight. Since muscle ups are done with much less load than these lifts, so pull-ups and dips, I stick with my max jump at 10 kilos. And another thing, I train muscle ups only for singles. I don't really see any point in training muscle ups in sets of more than 1 rep for increasing 1 rep, because I use reps for building raw strength and muscle, and singles for polishing the movement. And with muscle ups, you already build raw strength with pull-ups and dips. So the one thing that is left to have a good muscle up is to just polish the movement. So in singles do that really well. So in my opinion, training muscle ups for more than 1 rep is basically pointless if your goal is increasing 1 rep max. If you want to increase your reps with muscle ups or weighted reps, that's another story. But for 1 rep, I don't see any point in doing anything but singles. So my warm-up is also only singles. So for muscle ups, I do all my activations that I do for pull-ups. Then I go body weight for 1, 10 for 1, 20 for 1, and then if my muscle up is like 35, then I will go 27.5 for 1, 35 for 1. So the same principle applies. So the jumps are the same or less, they don't increase, but the reps here always stay at 1. Even the bodyweight muscle up I do only for 1 rep because I don't see any benefit in doing more. But there is a downside of doing more because you get fatigued more, and muscle ups are usually done first in the session, so you don't want to fatigue yourself too much with them. So I try to stay at singles so that there is close to 0 fatigue and just CNS stimulation. So yeah, that's the specificity of my muscle up warm-up. That is it for the warm-up sets video. I covered all the important nuances and examples. If you have any more questions concerning my warm-up set structure or any details, leave your comments down below this video. And any comments that will shed light on anything that is important to cover will be answered, and the most important ones I will pin them under my video so that there is some extra info. But yeah, I think I explained everything I wanted to explain for my warm-up sets, and this topic is not really that complicated, but it's pretty important in order to assure your maximum performance on your working sets, top sets, 1RM tests, whatever you do. So that is it. I'm done here. Thanks for watching and see you in another videos. Bye.